If Alien is about being trapped in a nightmare, then Aliens is about trying to wake up from it. James Cameron had an enormous challenge ahead of him in following up Ridley Scott's masterpiece of terror. Coming off his hit film Terminator, Cameron leapt at the chance to make the sequel, being a huge fan of the original. But he understood that it was pointless to try and top Scott's film. Instead, he took a different approach, and wisely chose to create an action thriller instead of a more traditional horror film. Cameron brought the same intelligent, thoughtful character approach to Ellen Ripley as he did to Sarah Connor. Like Connor, Ripley is someone forced to reach into the depths of her spirit and extract the focused determination and resilience needed to survive a terrifying ordeal. But in Ripley's case, her journey is intentional. The events of the first film were so devastatingly traumatic for her that she seems to have little choice in the matter. If she wants to recover her sanity and carve out a life for herself, she must go back into the belly of the beast and face her greatest fears. Among all the advanced sci-fi settings, props, and vernacular, among the fantastic monsters and terror, there is a very simple and poignant idea behind all that. A woman is trying to heal. That's it. That's all the movie is really about in an overall sense. Ripley is trying to move past her trauma, and it's this core theme that drives most of what you see on screen. One of the first things that happens to Ripley after she's rescued is she has a nightmare. In the nightmare, she turns out to be incubating the baby xenomorph, like Kane from the original film. Notice the specificity of the nightmare. Most of Ripley's traumatic interactions were with a fully grown xenomorph, and most of the crew were killed off by the adult creature. So, why is she dreaming about sharing the same fate as Kane? Well, besides being a lot more of a traumatic visual than any of the other deaths, and it's likely Cameron chose it mostly for this reason, the incubation is also symbolic of Ripley's journey. Her fears aren't external, they're internal. She is essentially in a battle with herself. The trauma is inside her, growing, festering, threatening to shatter her existence from within. The death of Ripley's daughter, having aged far past her mother, is a key component in Ripley's decision to go back into the belly of the beast. Her daughter was essentially her last remaining link to the world, and it serves as yet another thing the xenomorph took from her. And as if losing her daughter wasn't enough, Ripley, being interrogated by the inquest committee, is stripped of her flight credentials. Now she has nothing. No daughter, no career, and her sanity doesn't seem to be far behind. Ripley's character traits come to the fore as she presses the committee and Van Leeuwen on the threat of the xenomorph. She's lost everything, but is still concerned about the safety of her fellow citizens. Ripley proves to be a noble and courageous force. This courage will be important for her later on. And the nightmares continue. It's as if they're a twisted invitation for Ripley to face her fears and move past them. At this point, having lost everything and being terrorized every night by the past, she seems to have little choice in the matter. But again, Ripley proves to be a special case. Going back into the belly of the beast is something most people just wouldn't be able to handle. But somehow, she is able to find enough inner strength to make the leap. Ripley's task isn't easy. Even with the protection of a squad of Marines, she's still placed in a very vulnerable position. And Cameron cleverly uses a tracking device to build suspense and hint at the threat of the xenomorphs, borrowing a bit from Scott's film. Newt is a pretty obvious stand-in for Ripley's deceased daughter, but it's extremely effective. Parental instinct allows one to ignore their own personal problems in order to protect and nurture someone more vulnerable. In this sense, Ripley is able to bring an enormous amount of courage to the forefront and use it to survive the nightmare. Newt herself is also symbolic of courage, as she's been forced to cope and survive a horrific situation and seems relatively well adjusted, all things considered. As such, she seems directly tied to Ripley's inner struggle to face her fears, because if this little girl can survive the belly of the beast, then maybe Ripley can too. The weakness and indecisiveness of Gorman forces Ripley to step up to the plate and take charge. And this assertiveness doesn't just come out of nowhere. Ripley was a strong-willed character in the first film, and her traumatic experience failed to extinguish that positive character trait. It also further presents Ripley as someone who puts the safety of others ahead of her own, despite her trauma. The film truly kicks into gear in the last act, and Ripley is presented with a nail-biting conundrum. In order to rescue Newt, she must descend fully into the belly of the beast. These sequences are some of the most harrowing of the film, and Ripley aggressively lets out her rage at the alien queen, who is essentially the source of all her troubles. And she destroys the queen's eggs. These eggs and the queen represent the source of Ripley's trauma, and in destroying them, she symbolically jettisons her trauma and is able to heal, at least temporarily, until 20th Century Fox decided to make another movie and keep Ripley trapped in xenomorph hell. But that's another story. I like to think of Alien and Aliens as one complete story of Ripley experiencing a dramatic event and then purposefully working her way through that trauma in order to come out the other side. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as I'll be posting more content in the future. Thanks for watching.